Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Just playing a bit of music while I get myself together. We're in chapter 18 already. And we're getting at a point now where we're going to have a lot of stuff thrown at you. A lot more information. More difficult meetings. But if you watched the videos before and you were paying attention thoroughly, you should already have a solid base. And you should be able to absorb what's being said, what was being said. If you don't feel you have a strong grasp and you haven't watched the videos, I recommend that you do. You start all the way at the beginning. This isn't a race. Some of you have many, many years ahead of you. 10 minutes here or there can really add up. So don't be afraid to start at the beginning so you can understand the concepts thoroughly and correctly here. Well, let's get into it. Here we have the chapter where everybody wants to know who's the greatest in the kingdom. Now, quickly, who knows how old these apostles were at this time? You can kind of read into some of their behavior. Reminds me of when I was young, very immature, very let's do it all gas or all brake, mostly all gas. And here they are saying something that someone a little more mature would not be saying. Who's the greatest in the kingdom? But Jesus doesn't really respond to them like they thought. And this happens a lot. And he says something that's very important that I want you to pay attention to when we go through this is verse 6, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for them to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and be thrown into the sea. Now, this kind of gets into, you may know or not know about profaning the Holy Spirit. Jesus says you can say whatever you want about me and God, but if you profane the Holy Spirit, you're better off having a millstone around your neck and thrown into the sea. And we're hearing that here as well. What's being said is, and this is mostly to the Pharisees, but it happens a lot here. And it even happens with Christians. They try to inject themselves or their religion into what's real, what I'm showing you here. There's nothing else to add. This says everything. The Pharisees were trying to block, if you will, the whole process. Someone wants to become a disciple of Christ and they aren't going to have it. That's bad. That's really bad. And there's many different ways to do this, but doing it is not a good thing. So here he's talking about having a millstone around their neck. Here we get into stumbling blocks. And we get into the famous, if your hand or foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. Now, this kind of goes back earlier where we're talking about what comes out of the person. We're talking about defecation earlier. What people eat comes out of them and goes in the toilet, but what comes out of their heart is what condemns them. And this is the type of the same thing. If you look at a guy or a girl with lust, you can poke out both your eyes, but it doesn't change anything inside of you. You cut off your hand, it doesn't change anything inside of you. There's no change. Physically, you can't do it anymore, and that's what he's saying in this context. But for the modern Christian, the believer, it's still the same thing. But what it means is Your relationship with God is the one that sees you through these problems. You have to change your heart. You have to change your view. You have to change your outlook on everything. You have to change from your natural self and become Christ-like, which is impossible. You're not going to be able to do everything, but that's okay. The things that remain, like Paul, he wished for things, this problem to be taken away, and Jesus said, no, it's perfect the way it is. I'm just going to leave it that way. It's the same thing with you. There's problems you're just not going to be able to do, but it's okay because you have insurance. You have insurance through your relationship with our Father in heaven, and He's guiding you. So you will make mistakes, but gouging out your eyeballs and cutting off your hands, that's not going to change anything. It doesn't change your heart. So it's very important, this part. Oops, sorry. Here we have, truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. We talked about that before when Jesus was in Caesarea Philippi, and Peter said, rightly, you are the Son of the living God. Here we have something very important that I'd like to share, just in general. That if two of you agree on earth about anything that they may ask, it shall be done for them by my Father who is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 have gathered together in my name, I am there in their midst. The Jews had this thing where if you had at least 2 or 3 witnesses, that would be enough. One wasn't enough. But here he's talking about something a little different. They're talking about group prayer. They're talking about group meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that if you're by yourself, that doesn't mean you're by yourself, God-wise. You always have that. This is talking about group prayer, something a little different. So just didn't want you to take that the wrong way. Something else I wanted to explain real quick. This is pretty self-explanatory. If not, don't worry about it too much. You'll get it sooner or later, if he wants to show you that. But I do want to point out here, this slave, the master forgave his debt because you pleaded with me, but he didn't do the same to his neighbor. He went after the people that owed him money viciously. And that's kind of the lesson of treating others the way you would want to be treated. Treat others the way you want to be treated. If you've been forgiven your debt, you need to do the same to others. You need to understand this lesson. Again, this motif in this chapter is changing your view, not a worldly view, but a heavenly, spiritual view. You take the commandments of God, treat each other like you'd want to be treated. Or better yet, there's another commandment in John you may not be aware of. When Jesus talked during the Last Supper to his apostles and the people at the dinner, he said, love each other as I, Jesus, have loved you. Now, isn't that perfect? So if someone gives you a break, give them a break. If no one gives you a break, give them a break anyway. That's service to God. You serve him by serving others, just like Jesus did with us. And then we'll get into chapter 19 on our next video.